Stop for a moment and think about the last time you felt sure about a choice deep inside, but also wondered if it was just what you wanted to be true rather than what actually was true. I've spent years studying Carl Jung's profound exploration of the unconscious and intuition. And in my research of Jung's work on this very question, I discovered insights that are not only psychologically profound, but also deeply practical. I promise you that by the end of our time together, you'll be able to sense that subtle difference between genuine intuition and deceptively comforting wishful thinking, which can transform your decision-making and personal growth. Let me start by validating something Jung observed over a century ago. Though his patients felt torn between clarity and confusion, they were often drowning in a sea of conflicting impulses, dreams, and emotions that seemed real yet unreliable. Jung deeply empathized with these internal struggles and recognized this oscillation as part of what he called the dynamic tension between ego consciousness and the unconscious psyche. This tension is something all of us experience in today's fast-paced world, where decision fatigue and emotional overwhelm make us vulnerable to confusing our hopes for reality. Jung's clinical cases showed that mistaking wishful thinking for intuition can derail our path toward individuation, or true psychological wholeness, which makes understanding this difference urgent and essential now. In my study of Jung's work, I came to understand that he viewed intuition not as mere guessing or daydreaming, but as a function of the unconscious mind communicating symbolically to consciousness, in a way that transcends rational analysis. Jung described intuition as a way of knowing that bypasses logical deduction, relying instead on an inner sense or hunch that feels real and alive. For example, Jung recounted a case of a patient who had vivid dreams about a shadowy figure symbolizing repressed guilt, and these intuitive images led her to confront painful truths about herself. Unlike wishful thinking, which often clings to distorted or selective facts to create comforting narratives, intuition speaks clearly and persistently, even if what it reveals is uncomfortable. Here lies the first crucial insight. Intuition reveals itself through symbolic richness and emotional depth, while wishful thinking tends to be shallow, embellished with repetitive positive affirmations that soothe the ego but fail to engage the whole psyche. When you put yourself in situations where you tend to jump to hopeful conclusions, ask yourself, are these thoughts coming with symbolic complexity and a sense of inevitability, or are they just repetitive cheerleading from your desires? Jung also warned us about the danger of projection and how we often imbue our unconscious wishes onto situations, blurring the boundaries between reality and fantasy. Thus, a practical test from Jungian psychology is examining the emotional quality that accompanies the knowing. If it feels energizing yet grounded and opens you to multiple perspectives, this likely signals intuition. However, if it wraps you tight in denial or fixation on a favored outcome, beware. This pattern suggests wishful thinking. In addition, Jung taught me to appreciate how our personal and collective unconscious layers interact here, meaning that intuition is often a messenger carrying not only personal truth but archetypal themes resonating beyond the self. This depth rarely coincides with mere wishful thinking, which tends to serve individual immediate comfort. As we bring this to modern life, imagine someone considering a big career change. Their intuition might present itself as an unexplained clarity about a meaningful direction, plus recurring symbols like encounters with mentors in dreams or inexplicable synchronicities. Jung documented such cases where intuition guided patients toward life realignments necessary for growth. On the other hand, wishful thinking in this context might sound like, I just want this new job to be perfect, and ignore red flags or doubts. Setting this distinction requires reflective practice. Jung proposed active imagination, a technique where one dialogues consciously with images or feelings arising spontaneously, letting unconscious wisdom clarify itself.
By engaging with fantasies or intuitions through journaling, art, or meditation, you allow deeper layers of meaning to surface and differentiate from ego's comforting scripts. Jung also introduced shadow work, encouraging us to bring unconscious desires and fears into consciousness, not to suppress them, but to understand their influence on our intuitive sense. By acknowledging these shadow elements, you prevent wishful thinking from masquerading as intuition, because you have illuminated the self-deceptions lurking beneath. In practical terms, I advise observing recurring images over time rather than seeking instant answers. Intuition unfolds in patience and requires humility to accept messages that sometimes disturb your current beliefs. Wishful thinking demands immediate validation and insists on ignoring conflicting evidence. Jung's wisdom invites us to trust this slow unfolding as part of individuation, the lifelong process of becoming who we truly are. Finally, remember Jung's profound conviction that the psyche aims at healing and wholeness. If you cultivate a stance of openness, curiosity, and courage, you create inner space where true intuition can emerge, promoting decisions aligned with your deeper self rather than fleeting fantasies. To summarize, Jung's key insight here: intuition is a profound form of unconscious knowledge conveyed through symbolic and emotional depth, challenging the ego's desires, while wishful thinking is a surface-level self-deception fueled by ego needs and fear of discomfort. Applying Jung's methods like active imagination and shadow work can help you cultivate this discerning awareness, turning your inner life into an honest dialogue rather than a battleground of illusions. The promise is that when you learn to tell the difference, your relationships, work, and personal choices will align more authentically with your true path and potential. Now, as you embrace this powerful differentiation, imagine how much richer your inner guidance will feel tomorrow when we explore how to cultivate authentic relationships based on mutual growth, a topic Jung deeply connected with the process of individuation and psychological balance. I can assure you that understanding intuition versus wishful thinking is a crucial step toward navigating those relationships wisely. If you found this helpful, please like, comment your experiences, or subscribe to continue this journey with me. Together, we will keep peeling back the layers of Jungian psychology to empower your transformation. Stay tuned for tomorrow's exploration, because embracing authentic connections will transform not only how you relate to others, but how deeply you know yourself. Remember, your psyche is speaking endlessly. Learn to listen kindly and wisely with Jung as our guide.